Eat what benefits your body. Don't have an emotional disorder because you are distorted in your body image and then decide I'm going to go for purging. Might just be too late. What's going to break the deadlock of this famine? What's going to break this deadlock of the famine? Joel tells us that in the book of Joel chapter 2 verse 13 and verse number 15. He says, rend your hearts and not your garments. Don't tear your garments. Rather rend your heart. Find out what's the deep-seated things that are locked up in the corridor of the inner recesses of your heart. Rend not your garments, but your heart, says the Lord. He says, turn to the Lord. In other words, the way you've been walking for too long has been the wrong direction. If you don't turn, one of these fine days you're going to find yourself in the ditch.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
In every aspect of your life. Whether you're walking physically or whether mentally as well. Some of us have never been educated in anything, even in a conversation. You don't know 2 steps before you fall into the donga to turn back. You walk headlong and sinker as the blind leadeth the blind. As the blind leadeth the blind.
That's right.
Following a blind man. Don't follow a blind man. Like in the days of Eli, his eyes were dim, spiritually dim. The light in the temple had gone out. The temple was still there, and religious sacrifice was still taking place, but the Spirit of God left. Secondly, turn to God, for He is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, of great kindness. Blow the trumpet in Zion. How are we going to break the deadlock of this famine? Blow the trumpet in Zion. Call up a solemn assembly. I mean, in churches today, and I've got nothing wrong with that, strobe lighting, smoke machines, flickering lights to the rhythm of the beat. That's how the music actually keeps in tune, because the lights keep it. They know the jazz, they know the beat, how to continue. I've got nothing wrong with that. But if the real presence of God is missing, and the Shekinah glory of God, the smoke that came up from the altar is missing, and we're bringing smoke machines, and we are using smoke machines to simulate what was there in the beginning, then I'll tell you what, we've got a problem. We are in the land of famine. Call a solemn assembly. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Let's weep. Let's not rend our garments, rend our hearts. You see, the effects of a natural famine is but for a time. No food, death comes quickly, takes the people away. Some people suffer with malnutrition, they die. Hey, this thing just comes to mind. I've been to a place in India called Mercy Drops. After I went into this place called Mercy Drops, I had no appetite to eat. I had gross sadness inside of my heart. This man was running this non-governmental organization called Mercy Drops. Was a street kid. He grew up and eventually started this thing called Mercy Drops. He owns an ambulance, he owns a motor vehicle, and he owns a hearse. He's got this compound with buildings. You start from one side and you go to the other side. He goes around the streets and pick up all the destitute who've got no homes, people who are about to die and have no dignity. He goes and picks them up. I can't understand this man's heart and vision. You can't learn this in a university. You can't get a degree to do this.
Yes.
This man said, I decided that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so they took us in. This is the women's quarters. And here they are all mad women. Beautiful looking women. Physically, objectively, beautiful women off the rockers. Screaming, shouting, doing all kinds of funny things. And then they take us along and say, this is the madmen's section. Able men, 2 hands, 2 feet, good eyes, hearing, every faculty. But the mobility there's no ability in the mobility. Because they are off the rockers. And then he takes me, these people, Pastor, I've got them set like this. From what we understand, and the medical people tell us 30 days to live, 29 days to live. As you continue on the journey to the entrance, the hearse is waiting. These people are about to die in the next few hours, the hearse is waiting. When they move, we shift them off, we move the next lot closer to the door, like a dispatch conveyor. That is the condition that we find ourselves in. You know, when there's a natural famine, you can overcome it somehow. US aid can give us food, the European Union and the World Bank, they can give us food and try to stop the famine in some way or the other. But when spiritual famine sets in, you can't rend your garments, you have to rend your hearts. Call upon the Lord, beat upon your breast. Lord, have mercy. You see, because of a natural famine is in the land, but a spiritual famine is in us. Catch that. The natural famine is in the land, but the spiritual famine is in us. You know how it is in us? Because we have a failure to pursue the heart of God. Therefore, the writer to the book of Hebrews says in Hebrews chapter 2 verse 3, how shall we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? And how the word of God has been changed. Paul writing to the Galatians, in the book of Galatians chapter number 1 and verse number 8, he says, though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which was preached unto you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so I say again, if any man preach any other gospel unto you than we have received, let him be accursed. For I do not persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men. For yet, if I please men, I should not be the servant of God. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse number 4, he said, if he that becometh a preacher and come and preach another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or you have not received, or if you receive another spirit which you have not received, or another angel which we have not accepted, he might well bear with him. You see, what has happened is we've heaped to ourselves, after our own lust, teachers having itching ears, preaching what we want to hear. And that is the reason there is famine in that time of plenty. I don't have enough time to complete this message, but God willing, maybe again another time. But let me just say this to you, church. If you don't come to this point of understanding, are you in famine in the day of plenty? Let God be God and let the world be the world. You can't simulate God and the world together and have a successful life. Hear me carefully. You cannot. You cannot. You'll have a godly wedding. White wedding. We're coming before the altar of God. You're going to walk down the aisle. But the night before you had a disco in your house. This is very spiritual. That was very fleshly. Gratifying the flesh. Bible says, he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. No, but we are so spiritual. And you only find this in the Christian community, man. Wake up. Come on, tell me. A Muslim will not do that. He will not do that. It makes me sick. It's happening all over. Christians, suddenly they get into another gear. And now it's Christmas time. The boss is buying bride, and he's buying beers, buying everything. And just then, we forget our identity. We forget our identity just for a little while, short while. You built up a good name for years. It takes only a second to lose it. Bow your heads and close your eyes.